On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina slammed into the Gulf Coast and caused an estimated $100 billion in damage. It's estimated that approximately $35 billion of that damage is insured. Some things can never be replaced, but understanding your rights and responsibilities under the insurance policies covering your home or your business will help you recover the money you'll need to rebuild your life. In this video, we'll go over what you as homeowners and small business owners need to have and to do to prepare your insurance claims. We'll also cover things you can do to better prepare yourself in case of future disasters. These are practical and general pointers and not intended to provide legal advice. If you need help with a specific legal question, please consult a lawyer.
Here we are. What a mess. I worked 15 years to build this place up. Now, this is all I have left.
Well, let's see what we can do to get you ready for the next 15 years. Is that your insurance policy in there?
Yeah. Took all my important papers with me this time. Well, here's the policy, all the papers for the fixtures, records of the renovations for the past year, some photos.
Wow. You have flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, so what do you need me for?
Well, I've been through a lot of hurricanes, but it's never been this bad. I'm concerned about when and how I'll be able to come back from this.
Have you contacted your insurance company?
Yeah, I sent them notice last week, but they're not sure how soon they're going to be able to get an adjuster out here, so they sent me an extension to file for proof of loss, and I have that right here in the file.
Great. What about the National Flood Insurance claim? You know you only have 60 days to show proof of loss.
I'm on it. I got an extension to file the proof of loss, and that's also right here in the file. I've got a lot of damage, and I'm going to need time to really go through it to finalize things. What I'm wondering is all of this going to be covered?
The good news is you have coverage through your insurer and the National Flood Insurance Program. But your flood insurance is pretty limited, so you might not get full coverage if an adjuster comes in here and says that all your damage is flood related. When the adjuster comes, you'll want to make sure that all the damage is properly categorized. Damage caused by rain and wind should be noted separately from any flood damage so you can maximize your coverage. So if you need a new roof because the hurricane put a tree through it, make sure the adjuster understands that the damage is wind related. And keep in mind that water damage caused by levee failures might be covered even if your policy excludes all flood-related damage. Any damage you have from looting or vandalism after the hurricane should be noted separately so you can seek separate coverage.
Now, what about the damage from chemical spill during the hurricane? I noticed some of my cleaning fluids were knocked over, and I'm talking industrial strength stuff, and it's made a nasty mess. And I also noticed an oily residue that I think came from the refinery nearby.
I'd have to look more closely at your policy, but most policies cover damage caused by pollution or hazardous waste, as long as the spillage or leakage resulted from a covered peril. In your case, both hurricanes and floods are covered perils. If a third party's spill caused the damage, you should also find out if that party's insurer will cover it. Remember to document everything to help with any claims you make to yours or anyone else's insurers.
That's good to know. But in the meantime, I need financial assistance until I can get my claims filed and paid. What can I do about that?
There are a few agencies you can call for disaster assistance. The Small Business Administration, the Louisiana State Economic Development Corporation, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, better known as FEMA. The Small Business Administration can provide you with low interest and extended term loans. Business physical disaster loans can be used to repair or replace damage caused by the hurricane, and economic injury disaster loans can provide you with working capital to help you through the recovery period. Since you have less than 100 employees and you are planning to reopen, you should also apply for a grant from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, which has a small business disaster relief fund. The contact information for these organizations are in this handout.
Great. I'll give them all a call.
And don't forget to contact your bank to let them know about any lost checks, credit, or debit cards. They should be able to provide you with temporary checks or replacement cards if you need them. Be sure to cancel any automatic payments or withdrawals for services you're not receiving during the time your restaurant is closed. If you have outstanding business loans, you should call your lender and see if they'll grant you a temporary suspension on loan payments and other loan obligations.
Good idea.
So let's take a look at what we've got here.
Now, I've never had to shut down for more than a couple of days. I've had water damage, maybe a broken window, but nothing like this. And you haven't even seen the worst of it. I've actually cleaned up some of the debris just to minimize the rot and mold. I've patched some of the windows and doors just to stop the looters from getting in. I actually have photos you can see of the original damage that I took for the insurance claim.
That's great. Mitigating your losses like this will help your insurance claim, since insurers may deny any or part of your damage claim that could have been avoided through temporary repairs. It's also great that you're documenting the original damage for your claim. Do you have receipts for the temporary repairs that you made?
Yes, they're in the file I gave you.
Your policy will cover those expenses, and it'll also cover what's called sue and labor expenses, which will reimburse you for the cost of protecting your property before the hurricane hit. Things like the extra labor and supplies for boarding up your windows.
Wonderful. I did pay out of pocket for plywood. I'll get those receipts together. Now, I called a few contractors, and they all say it'll take several months at least to get my place fixed up and ready for business.
Well, your policy includes what's called an extra expenses provision, which will cover the expenses you'll incur to get back up and running. If you wanted to open a temporary location, the extra expenses provision will cover the cost of setting that up.
That's an idea. Maybe I could open a takeout joint or mobile restaurant to make some money while we rebuild.
Sure. Your policy also includes coverage for business interruption, which will allow you to recover the amount of income lost as a result of your business being closed due to hurricane damage. Your policy will state what the recovery limit for business interruption is, and also the applicable waiting period. That's the amount of time after the damage that you have to wait before business interruption coverage kicks in.
Now, how is the amount of coverage calculated?
The easiest way to think about it is to take your net profit and add in the amount of expenses you'll continue to incur while your business is closed. Another way to calculate it is to take your gross earnings and subtract out the expenses you're no longer incurring because your business is not operating. Things like supply purchases and perhaps payroll.
But I can't stop paying wages right now, at least for my key people. I won't be able to reopen if I don't keep them on a payroll. They've been running the business for me all these years, and they're helping me rebuild.
It looks like your business interruption policy does allow for you to continue normal expenses, including payroll, enough to resume operations at the same level as before the hurricane.
Good. I'll make a list of the expenses I don't need to make while we're closed, and also a list of the expenses I do need to make, like rent, some payroll, utilities.
Don't forget about taxes and licenses. You should contact the responsible agencies to see if you're eligible for any special treatment due to the hurricane damage. You may also want to contact your landlord to see if you can get any extensions on your rent payments while waiting for some of the financial assistance and insurance payments to come in.
Good idea. I've got a small loan that I took out for some renovations. What about that?
You can probably ask your lender for an extension on your repayment if you think you need it. Do you have financial records to show how the business was doing before the hurricane?
All of that is on my computer. I grabbed that before the hurricane, too. It's in my hotel room right now.
Okay. You'll need all of that to determine what your earnings were before the hurricane. If you didn't have your financials saved on your computer, you could also estimate your earnings by looking at how other restaurants in the area were doing. Once you figure out what your monthly profits were, add that to the amount in continuing expenses for each month, and that will be the amount you can claim in damages for each month your business experiences interruption. You might find that an accountant will help make the best case for your insurance claim.
What about when I can make the claim? Do I need to wait until I'm back in business and then submit the claim for the entire period the restaurant was closed?
Great question. No, you don't have to wait, and you shouldn't. Talk to your insurer about how to go about submitting paperwork for advance and partial payments. Your insurer will be more likely to provide you with such payments where it's necessary to prevent further losses and to get your business up and running faster.
Now, how long would I be entitled to draw these kinds of payments?
Your policy, like many others of this kind, provides business interruption coverage for such length of time as would be required with the exercise of due diligence and dispatch to rebuild, repair, or replace the property that has been damaged or destroyed. Partial repairs won't end this period of recovery. Your period of recovery will end when all repairs are substantially complete. The policy language can vary the amount of time you have business interruption coverage, so it's always a good idea to review the policy language carefully and consult an attorney if it's at all unclear.
Okay, but what happens when the restaurant reopens and business is bad? Can I get compensation for the amount of business lost compared with before the hurricane?
Some policies specify that the length of the business interruption period is determined by how long it takes for the business conditions to be restored to levels prior to the damage. Other commercial policies provide for an extended business interruption period to cover losses until the business has been restored to the condition it would have been in had the hurricane not hit. It's important to review the policy language carefully to determine what kind of coverage you may have to compensate you for business income losses after you reopen. And you'll have to use your financial records to establish the amount of business income that would have been achieved had the hurricane never occurred, which will determine how long this extended business interruption coverage will last. In addition, it looks like your policy has a provision for extended business interruption coverage up to a year. So even if you feel your insured didn't give your business enough time to recover, you'll be able to draw on an extra year of business interruption coverage.
And what if my suppliers are not yet back in business?
Well, your policy contains a provision called contingent business interruption coverage. What that means is if a key supplier has also experienced hurricane-related damage, you can get coverage for any expenses or losses incurred because you had to purchase supplies elsewhere for higher prices or because you couldn't get the needed supply.
Thanks for walking me through this.
No problem. To review, check your records to determine what policies you have in place. Contact your insurers right away to notify them of your loss and to get extensions, if necessary, to file claims. Look over your damage and make note of any damage that might be covered by another party's insurance. Check with the Small Business Administration and FEMA to see if you qualify for additional assistance. Mitigate your losses by making temporary repairs where necessary. Keep receipts for expenses incurred to protect and repair your property. If your policy covers extra expenses, you should be covered for the cost of getting your business back up and running, even if just in a temporary location. Business interruption and extended business interruption coverage will help you cover ongoing expenses while you rebuild. Contingent business interruption can cover extra expenses incurred when your suppliers and/or customers have also been damaged. Finally, make those claims right away. The sooner you make the claims, the sooner you'll have the resources to rebuild your business. If you need further assistance, contact the Small Business Administration, an accountant, or an attorney. Good luck.